So the topic of this week's blog is recommendation letters, and before we go into talking about who you should ask and how you should go about it, I think that it is important to think about why the recommendation letter is such a crucial part of the college application process. So overall, the recommendation letter is really important because it allows college admissions counselors to see you in the perspective of a teacher who has taught you alongside other students. So this really puts you in the context of other students at your school, and it ultimately allows somebody to advocate for you, because there's a lot that you can say about yourself through your essays, and there is a lot that is said about you through your transcript and SAT scores, but this really puts a more humane spin on your application, and ultimately if your teacher can effectively advocate for you, that can be very persuasive in persuading college admissions counselors to ultimately accept you to their school. So how can you determine who will write the most effective letter for your application? Well, I think that the first step is to think about, what you plan on majoring in college. So if you are planning on majoring in computer science, then it might be a good idea to ask your computer science teacher, because that offers a good perspective on you, right? Because you want to pursue computer science. And other than that, I know a lot of colleges say they want to have one STEM-based teacher and then one humanities-based teacher, so that is certainly something to think about. I think that gives two different insights on what kind of student you are, so it is definitely good if you are, a great student in all disciplines. But I think a good thing to also keep in mind is that you don't necessarily have to think about which classes you perform the best in, because you might not have been the best student in a certain class, but that teacher might have the most good things to say about you, right? If you worked very hard and they have a great impression of you, that might be a good teacher to ask versus a class that you might have gotten an A+ in but you didn't really participate and the teacher doesn't know anything about you. So, what should your recommendation do to make it stand out? Well, there are certainly very generic recommendations that teachers can write their students if they don't know much about them. But if your teacher if your teacher knows you very well, and if he or she can write you a glowing recommendation full of personal stories saying, what a great student you are, how smart you are, then that can certainly set you apart from everyone else, right? So you just want your teacher to have the most stories about you, right? You want them to know you the best. At the end of the day, that's really what matters. So tips for what you should do before, during, and after the request. Well, before the request, you really want to prepare certain things. You want to have your resume saying everything that you've done throughout high school, and I think it also might not be a bad idea to have perhaps a letter where you talk about who you are. It should be very similar to the personal statement in that it details the kind of person that you are and talks about you outside of school, because that's something that teachers will never know about you unless you tell them, and them knowing that can be very helpful in them writing your recommendation letter, because then they understand you not just in the context of school but also in the context of your home life, your responsibilities outside of school. And then during the whole process, after your teacher agrees to write you a recommendation, you want to continually follow up on them. So after summer ends and school starts, you want to just go to them and remind them to write your recommendation. Let them know what colleges you're applying to, and just touch up on anything that you need to touch up on, and then after the request and after your teachers have already written your recommendation, you definitely need to send them thank you cards, just to show them that you are appreciative of them writing your letter.